This is an LA Times Studios podcast.
My name is Sammy Roth, and I'm the climate columnist for the Los Angeles Times. This is Boiling Point. My favorite days as a journalist are the ones that I don't spend at my computer.
So you said it's already power testing?
Elan 1 was energized late September.
Oh, okay.
A few days before Thanksgiving 2024, I visited the construction site of a solar farm. And it wasn't just any solar farm. It was the biggest solar and battery storage project ever built by the city of Los Angeles. It's about 80 miles north of downtown LA in the Kern County desert.
Okay. And when's Elan 2 going to energize?
I think it's like the end of this week.
Okay.
It's technically two solar farms, Elan 1 and Elan 2. And in case you're wondering about all that background noise, I didn't drive to Kern County that day in November. My tour guides from the LA Department of Water and Power, they chartered a helicopter.
But IPP is coming online in March as well. So
We left from a helipad on the roof of City Hall. The flight took about 40 minutes.
Okay, here we go.
We wore headsets so we could talk to each other in the helicopter, but it was still pretty hard to hear. It was loud in there. The main thing I was thinking about as we flew north was that it felt like Los Angeles never really ends. Even as we left the downtown skyscrapers behind and moved past the suburbs that sprawl out in every direction, one of the first landmarks on the other side of the San Gabriel Mountains was the California Aqueduct, bringing drinking water to LA County. Then we got to the desert, and suddenly we were swimming in a sea of wind and solar farms, many of them powering Los Angeles. From the air, the solar farms are hard to distinguish, all of them Tetris-like expanses of black wafers tilting toward the sun, surrounded by desert. Even on a cloudy November morning, the panels were gleaming. It was hard to figure out which one was Elan. But eventually we figured it out. And then we were on the ground.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
5 months later, Elan 1 has been running. And Elan 2, it's almost finished. Together, the solar panels and the lithium-ion batteries are expected to supply 7% of LA's electricity, much of that power for a record low price for solar and storage. If you're looking for a dose of clean energy optimism as President Trump goes to bat for fossil fuels, Elan is a good place to start. It's a reminder that renewable, climate-friendly power can, in fact, replace oil, coal, and gas, affordably and reliably. I saw it happening with my own eyes. On today's podcast, we'll show you how. After this break.
It's sort of very similar as to being a foster parent. You go in it not for the length of time, but to know that even 2 months or 10 years can still create a big impact in a child's life. So CASA is a nonprofit organization that stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and they specialize in making sure that the child's needs are met, whether it's medical, health, educational, and ensuring that the child is receiving the most stability they can.
The LA Times sports video series, Dodgers Debate, is coming to your podcast app on March 28th. Tune in for banter, analysis, and hot takes from me, Dodgers beat reporter Jack Harris, and sports columnists Bill Plaschke and Dylan Hernandez. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Our helicopter landed at the tiny, rundown airport at California City, which, if you've heard of the place, is probably because of an infamous real estate scheme. I couldn't help but laugh at a rusty fuel tank with the slogan, "Building for the Future, Today," But in a funny way, the fuel tank was right. A master-planned city of 500,000 people overflowing from LA, that never panned out. But in a weird way, this slice of the California desert still represents the future. Just the renewable energy future.
Actually, do you mind if we switch and I sit on the side so I can take pictures out the window in case I...
Getting into the van with all the folks from the LA Department of Water and Power, it was a tight fit. But I wanted to sit by the window and get a good view as we drove through the sea of solar panels. Because that place, the Eland Solar Farm, it was massive. There were 1.36 million panels. Eland was literally the size of East Los Angeles. The reason LA has been able to put so many solar farms in this part of the desert is because there are electric power lines running from here back to the city. Across the country, one of the biggest obstacles to expanding renewable energy and phasing out fossil fuels is that it takes a very, very long time to build new power lines. So the fact that LA already had power lines here and was able to build some new ones too, that is a very big deal.
Which transmission line? Remind me of the line that you guys have through here.
So the Inyo, Barron Ridge, and then Barron Ridge.
As you can probably tell from the way the DWP folks in the van answered my question, the public utility has a lot of wires running through this part of the desert, and they've added a lot of capacity to those wires to accommodate more solar power.
Yeah, because the original line was about 675 megawatts. Now we built two 900 megawatts.
That was Ashkan Nasiri, a power system planning manager at DWP. A few minutes later, we got out of the van and walked through 2 long rows of white storage containers. Together, they housed 172 lithium-ion batteries made by Tesla. We're going to avoid getting into an Elon Musk discourse today and instead focus on the fact that these batteries can do something extremely special. Collectively, they can store 300 megawatts of solar power for 4 hours after sunset and help keep Los Angeles powered with clean energy after dark. Ashkan told me that a few nights before our tour, he was at DWP headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. At 7:30 p.m., he noticed that Eland's batteries were sending 109 megawatts of power to the electric grid. That's enough energy to power 250,000 typical homes. And at this point, half of the Eland project wasn't even operating yet.
That's cool.
This project, so it's in some ways solar seems so simple. You just plug it in.
Yeah.
But if you look at the
Here's Jason Rondu, an assistant general manager at DWP.
we had to install new equipment. We had to install what's called a StatCom, which Ashkan will have to explain to you what that does. But it's
Basically, Jason was saying that switching from fossil fuels to clean energy isn't simple. We absolutely can do it. We've got the technology, it's not crazy expensive, but it does take work. And we've got to move fast for climate reasons. The previous mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, set a goal of 100% clean electricity by 2035 based on the best available climate science. The current mayor, Karen Bass, endorsed that goal. 2035? It's just 10 years away.
No, really though, does it feel like a long time or does it feel like not that much time? For 2035.
It feels like nothing.
Yeah. I know, that's how I feel about it.
In 2023, about 57% of LA's electricity came from climate-friendly sources, mainly solar, wind, geothermal, hydropower, and nuclear. With Eland, DWP is projecting that this year, 64% of the city's electricity will be climate-friendly. But getting to 100% by 2035 is going to require a lot more projects like Eland, built a lot faster. That's because in 2023, 10% of the city's power still came from a coal plant in Utah that's supposed to be shut down this summer. And even more significantly, 1/3 of the city's power still came from natural gas, another fossil fuel, including from 4 gas plants in the LA basin.
Right, because they keep, the power keeps flashing on and off and stuff.
The good thing is, battery technology is getting a lot more common and a lot cheaper, just like solar did over the last 15 years. As we walked through those white storage containers at Eland, I started thinking about the first big battery project I ever visited.
When I was at the Desert Sun, I was at the commissioning in I think this was 2015 or maybe 2016 for the first, I think it was the first major BESS system with Tesla battery packs in the Imperial Valley. It was a 35 megawatt system that they commissioned with exactly these, and it was such a big deal. It was 35 megawatts.
As much as I wanted to get a look inside the storage containers and see the Tesla Megapacks, that was not going to happen.
Can't really get inside of them. I wish I could, but they're pretty close to the chest with their technology too. So,
Oh, Tesla locks these?
yes.
They have a very intricate monitoring system so they know when they're misbehaving in Tesla.
That was Janice Quinones, chief executive of the LA Department of Water and Power. She's got a hard job, making sure everyone in Los Angeles has clean drinking water and keeping the lights on and trying to make sure that power lines don't spark fires and supplying water to firefighters when inevitably there is a fire. And now add to that, fighting climate change, which means 100% clean energy by 2035, with an interim goal, by the way, of 98% clean energy by 2030, just 5 years from now, or 6 years back when I interviewed Janice in November.
Okay. So what's the most important stuff that has to happen over the next 6 years for that to happen?
We need 10 more projects like this.
10?
I sat down with Janice after we finished touring Elan to ask her what comes next for the city of Los Angeles. We're going to play that interview. But first, a quick break.
It's sort of very similar as to being a foster parent. You go in it not for the length of time, but to know that even 2 months or 10 years can still create a big impact in a child's life. So CASA is a nonprofit organization that stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and they specialize in making sure that the child's needs are met, whether it's medical, health, educational, and ensuring that the child is receiving the most stability they can.
The LA Times sports video series, Dodgers Debate, is coming to your podcast app on March 28th. Tune in for banter, analysis, and hot takes from me, Dodgers beat reporter Jack Harris, and sports columnists Bill Plaschke and Dylan Hernandez. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm sitting here with Janice Quinones, the chief executive of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, at the Pilot Lounge at the Mojave Airport in the high desert. Janice, thank you very much for being with us on the Boiling Point podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sammy.
So we just came from the Elan Solar and Storage Plant. Talk about why this is such a big deal for the city of Los Angeles.
This is our largest solar battery project that we have so far. It's a big improvement to our renewable portfolio. Will increase our renewable portfolio by 7.5.
So from what I understand, Elan is going to get you from about 40% renewable to 47.5% renewable, right?
Actually, today I just look at my numbers. We're at 44.5, and so we'll be over 50% with Elan.
Right, you just actually looked at that before we started recording. You just got that email, right?
Yes, correct.
So when will Elan be finished?
Elan will be commissioned by the summer of 2025.
So the work we saw happening today, the final solar panels that they're putting in place, I mean, they've been working on this for a few years. They're almost done now. Yeah,
this project started in 2017, and so it's been many years in the making. I think we broke ground in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. So Elan 1 it's online now, generating. It's a commissioning date. It's probably in the next couple of weeks, and then Elan 2 will be sometime in March when they start finishing and generating, and then commissioning after that.
DWP has been building solar for a long time. I mean, I think solar has been around for a long time. What is different or special about Elan?
The battery storage system. So a couple of things. Elan is the largest ones we have, is about 400 megawatts of solar with 300 megawatts of battery storage. And the price that we got on this project is unheard of. And we will never see prices like this again. We did a really good job on the PPA and negotiating the project.
I remember writing about it back in, I think, 2019 or 20. It was a record at the time for how cheap this was, right?
It was a record at the time, and it's definitely a record today because we can't even get solar at the prices that we get this combined project with solar and storage.
Why is that? Because I remember at the time thinking like, okay, solar is just going to keep getting cheaper and cheaper. Why has that not happened since then?
I think everybody knows that we have a clean energy goal, and so everybody's racing to that same goal at the same time, and it's in the benefit of the project developers to increased prices as well.
And there's been some supply chain stuff, right, with the pandemic as well?
Yeah, a lot of supply chain issues come in from the pandemic and materials not available and workforce as well.
So it kind of turned out to be the perfect timing to get 7.5% of the city of Los Angeles' electricity supply and sign that contract when you did, huh?
Yes, we did, yeah.
The fact that City of LA is trying to get 100% clean energy by 2035, I mean, that's ambitious, right? The state of California, the law says 2045, so you guys are 10 years ahead of that. How's it going? I mean, are we on track to get there?
We are on track to get on them. By 2030, we should be about 98% clean energy. The last 2% will be the toughest, and we're working very hard to close that gap.
That's not that long from now in energy timelines. It takes a long time to build stuff. What's it going to take over the next 6 years to get from 70% to 98% and stop burning so much fossil fuel?
So for 2030, we need 4 more eLand projects coming online. And for 2035, we need 6 additional eLand-sized projects coming online. So 10 additional projects of this magnitude coming into our system.
I mean, I want people to understand what a big deal that is. I mean, we just spent the last couple hours touring this site. This thing is giant.
Yes.
I mean, what did they say? 4,800 acres for the whole
Correct.
Of this project?
It's 10 times the Dodger Stadium, including the parking lots.
10 times Dodger Stadium, including the parking lots.
Including the parking lots.
For anyone who hasn't been in the Dodger Stadium parking lots, those things go on forever.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 680,000 panels in each one of the projects, Elan 1 and Elan 2.
680,000 solar panels. Okay, so we're talking about close to 1.4 million solar panels.
Correct.
Total in this site. And you have to build 4 more of these over the next, not 4 more just like this necessarily, but something on this order of magnitude, 4 more over the next 6 years and 6 more over the next 5 years after that.
Of the same megawatts, yeah. Correct.
Okay. That's big.
Yes.
How and so what are we talking about? Is it just solar and batteries, or is there other technologies that might come into the mix?
Yeah, we're looking at everything. We're looking at wind, geothermal, solar. I mean, solar is the most available resource that we have for renewables, but we're looking at every technology that we can put our hands on.
Why is there so much solar here in Kern County that you guys are generating renewable electricity from? Because we flew in here from City Hall this morning, and just flying over this area, I mean, talking with you guys in the helicopter, you and your colleagues from DWP, there was almost a little confusion of, wait, there's so many solar farms. Which one of these is Eland? Like, which one of these are the solar projects with batteries that we already have here? There's so much. Why so much from Kern County? Why have you built so much out
Well, I
here?
mean, the solar availability here is better than in Basin. We have
It's sunny.
It's sunny. It's hot. It's a desert. We also have the transmission lines close to it, so we have a huge renewable corridor coming through it. We have the capacity to move that renewable energy into the city.
You have power lines with the space, basically.
Yes, with the space, correct. And the land here is cheaper, so it makes financial sense for the developers to come in here versus being in the LA proper.
Okay, so this has kind of become a renewable energy hub, right?
Yeah, correct. And I don't know where you would put 10 Dodger Stadiums inside the LA basin, right? Like it's...
I mean, you're gonna, that's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
Do you? My understanding, I think, from what your colleagues were telling me, is you have space on the transmission lines to put even more renewable energy out here if you need to.
Yeah, we are expanding all the way to 3 gigawatts on the transmission lines to move more power from renewable sources into the city.
So for context, 3 gigawatts is bigger than Diablo Canyon, the nuclear plant. That's what, 2.2 gigawatts or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people traditionally, and you talked about the batteries and what a big deal the batteries are, and I want to drill into that further. People traditionally, I think, have thought of solar as, okay, it gives you electricity when the sun is shining, but not so good after that. Talk about how that's changing and why, because you said 400 megawatts of solar, but then also 300 megawatts of batteries. What does that give you the capacity to do or the capability to do that you couldn't do before? How is this solar plant actually going to be operated?
So whenever the sun is not shining, we will use that storage capacity to provide renewable power into the city. And whenever the sun is shining, whatever excess generation we have, we store that excess generation on the battery. So we dispatch that energy either to lower our peak load that comes after the solar comes out, all the renewables come offline, and you see the huge load coming that comes through our generation plants. Or whenever we have emergencies, we can also dispatch the battery power.
So because you have, and those were those big white storage containers that we were walking through, the big Tesla power packs, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's soaking up the sun during the middle of the day, and then you send it down those power lines to LA after the sun goes down and it's still hot and people are running the air conditioning.
Correct.
Does that mean, so the big gas plants down in Los Angeles, Valley Generating Station in the Valley, the one that had the big methane leak that maybe people have read about, and then the ones on the coast, Scattergood, Haines, and Harbor, the fact that you've got these big Tesla power packs up here with all the solar, you won't need to fire those up quite as much? Is that basically the idea?
The goal is that we won't fire them as much. We have to do a lot of transmission upgrades in our systems. We have about 50 transmission projects going right now to upgrade the transmission lines coming from areas like this, but also inside the LA basin.
To make it easier to move the electricity from place to place?
Yeah, and to get the capacity that we need in the areas that we have. If we are not running the generation plants as much, we have to bring the power from places like this through our transmission lines. So that's why we have to upgrade the system internally. Also, we will run those plants when it gets really hot and we don't have enough reliability locally in the basin, and also to manage voltaic fluctuations and how we operate the system.
It's complicated running an electric system,
It is not easy, yes.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh, what is it? How many people do you serve? How many customers?
1.6 million in the electric side, about 900 on the water side.
1.6 million homes, businesses, other metered properties, and then, okay.
Yeah,
and
people is 4 million, but meters is 1.6.
And you've got to keep the lights on and the refrigerators running and the data centers at One Wilshire and everything going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and nothing can break or you're in trouble, huh?
Yeah. Losing power is a big deal because people notice immediately, right? And so our goal is to keep the lights on and the water flowing, but at the same time make sure that it's clean energy and that we do it in an affordable way and we do it in an equitable way. And so every day we're balancing multiple things that we're trying to achieve.
You talk about doing it in an affordable way. You said that you got a record cheap price and that was for the first Eland 1, right? So Eland 2 is a little more expensive.
Just a little bit more, but still cheaper than many people will ever be able to get a project like this.
Are people going to notice it in their rates, this build out of renewable energy going to 100% clean energy? Is that going to make electricity more expensive?
We are working on keeping the rates as affordable as we can. There's going to be investments that need to be made that are above and beyond our capital expenditures that we have today. So eventually the rates will increase, but we're probably one of the cheapest increasing rates compared to others trying to get to this clean energy transition.
Okay, so I mean, practically speaking, rates at DWP are already lower than they are at
They're the
PG&E, SoCal Edison,
the third
SDG&E.
lowest in the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Third lowest after what? Sacramento and
it's mud and Sacramento, and I think the Imperial Irrigation
that
District.
was what my guess would have been. Yeah. Okay, and so the increases that you're looking at, there's probably something, but it's less than others are looking at.
Yeah, and SMUD just raised their rates to just increase by 5%.
SMUD being Sacramento Municipal Utility District. The fact that you guys are municipally, you're owned by the city, you're part of the city. Does that put you in a better position to do this in an affordable way than an investor-owned company, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have shareholders that we answer to. We don't have to do a EPS, earnings per share target, so that our stock stays on power.
Right.
So
I mean, you also don't have to shave off a rate of return, a guaranteed profit for shareholders.
Correct.
One other thing that I think is interesting about the timeline here with Eland, it seems to be coming online, and I don't know if you planned it this way, just in time as well for the retirement of the big coal plant that you guys operate in Utah, right?
I don't think we time it for that specific timeline, but it's just happened that it's happening at the same time. So next year is going to be a big year for LADWP because we will be retiring about 13% of our portfolio, which is coal-based, and then we're bringing the hydrogen blending in Utah and then solar here at the same time. So.
Right. So talk about the hydrogen project because I guess Intermountain Coal Plant is shutting down. Talk about what you're replacing it with as well.
Yeah, we're replacing it with natural hydrogen blend gas turbines, so we can burn about 30% hydrogen and 70% natural gas. The goal is by 2035, 2045 will be 100% hydrogen. We went from 1,800 megawatts of coal to 848 megawatts of hydrogen blend. And the best part of this project is that we have storage in place. So it's seasonal storage. We can store for days and months of power. The same thing that the batteries are doing for 4 or 5 hours, we can do there for months.
So let me do a little bit of translating here. So coal plant is shutting down in Utah. DWP is building a new power plant. It's going to run mostly on natural gas, which is a fossil fuel to begin with, but with some green hydrogen mixed in, right? Hydrogen,
correct,
which is clean burning, and you're going to create the hydrogen with renewable energy, so it's totally clean.
Correct.
And then the idea is by 2045, you get that to be a completely hydrogen.
Green hydrogen.
Green
yes.
hydrogen, right? You're going to phase out the fossil fuel, assuming the technology evolves as you need it to.
Yeah.
And you're doing that same thing, or you're planning to do that same thing at those gas plants in the Los Angeles area,
Correct.
right? The 3 on the coast and the 1 in the valley.
Correct.
How important is that hydrogen strategy to getting to 100% clean energy? Is that an important part to have those 5 gas plants that eventually are running on hydrogen?
It's super important because there's no business plan that says that we cannot have generation in basin. And there's no other solution for generation in basin depending on the load that we're carrying that is not hydrogen as of today. So unless something changes with storage or technology, hydrogen is our outcome.
Okay, so you're saying that you need some kind of fuel, something that you can burn and turn on and off and spin turbines in
Yes.
order to keep the power on in Los Angeles.
Correct.
Because there are some environmental groups who, as I'm sure you know, are following what's going on at those gas plants and who are saying, hey, we don't like gas and we understand why you're doing hydrogen, but hydrogen is risky and not totally proven yet, and we'd prefer if you just did batteries there like you're doing here at Elan Solar. Why don't you just put batteries in those sites and make it totally clean?
Correct.
Not possible?
It's a 4-hour dispatchable load. It's very risky. You need all the space to build that kind of capacity, which we don't have. And so from a reliability and resiliency perspective, I wouldn't recommend that, no.
Okay, so you're saying it would be hard because you don't have the space to put the batteries, wouldn't do all of the things physically that the gas turbines or eventually hydrogen turbines would do.
There's a lot more to running a utility than just the capacity of the generation. We also need voltage mitigations and regulation that the power plants do for us as well.
Yeah. So there's all these different pieces to getting to 100% by 2035. I find this endlessly fascinating, and I'm sure you do too. You run a utility. I mean, you've got all of the solar and the batteries that you're building up here in Kern County. You've got wind, right, as well.
Yes.
I mean, you guys, isn't the second biggest, this is going to be the biggest renewable power plant that you have. Isn't the second biggest like a wind farm in New Mexico? Does that sound right? The Red Cloud Wind Farm?
Sounds right.
Yeah. You've got the wind in New Mexico. You've got a bunch of nuclear power from Arizona.
About 13.9% coming from nuclear power.
13.9% of your power coming from the Palo Verde nuclear plant in Arizona. There you go. Hydropower from the Sierra region.
Yes.
Not to mention the gas plants, which are going to go to
Hoover
hydrogen.
Dam.
Hoover Dam, there you go. I
Yes.
always forget about Hoover Dam, and I shouldn't. You've got some geothermal, too, from Nevada,
Geothermal, too,
as I
yes.
recall. It's this fascinating balancing act. How confident do you feel that you're going to get to that 100% by 2035, that you can, keep this incredible juggling act going and keep all the pieces in the air and, get the coal off the system, get the gas to go to hydrogen? It's hard. It's obviously not an easy thing. Are you going to be able to do it? It's not a long time.
I'm confident and positive that I'm going to do it. That's 100% our strategy, and we're committed to it. And once you commit to a strategy, all we have to do is solve for the problems. And LADWP has a great history of solving for great challenges, right? You talk about the aqueduct, talk about having the first hydrogen blended generation plant in the world. There's a lot of things that we're doing first off, and that we've been very successful at. We have the talent and the know-how, and a lot of people are really interested to partner with us to make this happen. So. Do
you feel like DWP is so well known for its water? Everyone knows the Owens Valley, the water history and the water grab. DWP frequently makes headlines for scandals when somebody does something they shouldn't have done. To me, the power system is the most interesting part for the reasons we've been discussing. Why do you think that goes under the radar sometimes?
Yeah, we have not done a great job at telling our story. And so we're being more reactive than proactive, and we're changing that and making sure that people know all the great things that we're doing on the power system, on the water system, and then the company as a whole. We do a lot for the communities too. And people don't know how much we're integrated into our communities and how much we support the local economy in multiple ways. So I think we will change that in the way that we tell our story.
Do you think that other utilities that are not DWP can do the things that you are doing? Because you have this, you have the geographic reach of all of these energy sources that you happen to have in all of these different places. I mean, and a lot of it is sort of a salacious history. I mean, there's the lines that go out to all of these coal plants that, and coal is super polluting, and it's unfortunate that they were built, but that's how things were done. You have tentacles, right, that go all over the Western United States, and that's one of the reasons why it's easier to now convert them to renewables. Not every utility has that. Not every city, not every company. I feel like you're in a little bit of a position here where maybe not everyone has those advantages. Can everyone else do this? Is it possible to then say, for others to follow your lead and say, okay, 100% by 2035, DWP is doing it. We can do what they're doing, or is it harder than that?
They can do it in a different way. They have to be intentional about how they communicate with the stakeholders. Like if you're integrated into the ISO or you're managing other contracts, you have to make sure everybody is attached to the same goal and they're committed to that goal. We are vertically integrated, which means we own our generation, our transmission, and distribution system, which helps with that tentacle. But they also have tentacles; they're just not owning them all. So making sure that all the partners on that chain are working towards the same goals, it's almost the same outcome.
Janice, thank you very much for being with us on the Boiling Point podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
In the few months since I recorded this interview, DWP has had its hands full for an entirely different reason. 6 weeks after I visited Elan, the Palisades fire ignited. DWP has faced several lawsuits alleging that it could have done more to contain the fire, or, alternately, that its equipment may have played a role in fueling the blaze. Those lawsuits will take time. But whatever might have happened in Pacific Palisades, it's important that city officials don't lose track of the important climate work being done at DWP. 98% clean energy by 2030, 100% by 2035, those are crucial targets. LA is trying to set an example for the world, and time is short. We can't lose focus. Thank you for listening to Boiling Point. I'm your host, Sammy Roth. My producers are Mary Knopf and Jonathan Shiflett. Sound design and original music by Jonathan Shiflett. Elijah Wolfson is our editor. Denise Callahan is our studio manager. Ben Church is our production manager. Nick Norton is our engineer. Special thanks to LA Times studio president Anna Magzanian, president and chief operating officer of the Los Angeles Times Chris Argentieri, and executive editor of the Los Angeles Times Terry Tang. Boiling Point is executive produced by Darius Derrickson and created by me, Sammy Roth.
Who's abducting 100,000 children in China each year? And how was a cult where paedophilia, murder and torture were commonplace allowed to operate in Chile for nearly 4 decades? At True Crime Reports, a new video podcast from Al Jazeera, we'll investigate these stories from the global south and beyond. True crimes that often haven't reached the headlines in the West. I'm Hala Mohieddin. In each episode, we'll take you to a different country. You'll hear from experts and first-hand accounts from those right at the heart of these stories. True Crime Reports. Find us under Al Jazeera's YouTube channel podcast tab and wherever you get your podcasts.